All right, today we're digging into a real puzzle at the heart of the AI revolution. You see it all the time, right? Brilliant startups with amazing tech and tons of funding. And yet, so many of them just crash and burn. It's a paradox that is even the smartest investors scratching their heads. So let's unpack why.
So what is going on here? I mean, these companies, they check all the boxes. They solve the really hard technical problems, they raise the capital, they build these incredible teams. But then, when it's time to go from a successful little pilot to a massive integrated business, something just snaps. And this isn't your typical startup failure story, bad product, no market. This is something else, something unique to the very nature of AI itself.
And there's a name for this phenomenon: algorithmic attrition. The idea here is that these AI companies don't just fail in a big explosion. They kind of slowly degrade. Imagine a sandcastle against the tide. Their core asset, that amazing algorithm, just erodes in value over time. They're trying to build a predictable business on top of a fundamentally unpredictable technology, and eventually the whole thing just gets washed away. To really get why this happens, we first have to tear down one of the biggest myths in AI strategy, this whole idea of the unbeatable data moat. For years, this was basically gospel in Silicon Valley. The thinking was pretty simple. If you've got a decade of user data and your competitor is starting from scratch, you win. Game over. Your data is this giant fortress, this impenetrable moat. But it turns out that fortress is built on some pretty shaky ground. And that moat? Well, it isn't nearly as deep as we all thought. The flaw has a name too. It's called resource illusion. This is what happens when a company looks at its massive data warehouse and sees a priceless treasure chest. But in reality, the gold inside is losing its shine fast. They make a huge mistake. They confuse simply having a ton of data with actually knowing how to use it effectively. Okay, so to really get this illusion, there's a classic business framework called VRIN. A real, lasting advantage has to be valuable, rare, imitable, and non-substitutable. And the old AI playbook, it got this all wrong. Companies thought having a huge volume of data was valuable. Turns out what really matters is the relevance of that data. They thought their secret black box algorithm was imitable, but the real defense is the complex orchestration of the entire system working together. And here's the real kicker: customers don't stick with you just for raw accuracy. They stay for trust and reliability, and that's something a competitor can't just copy overnight. And look, this whole shift is being supercharged by what's happening in tech right now. These incredibly powerful foundation models are now available to pretty much everyone, so you don't need a decade of data to get going. Plus, high-quality synthetic data can often do the job just as well as the real thing. All this means the advantage is no longer about the static pile of data you're sitting on, your data stock. It's all about the dynamic, real-time system you build to process feedback and learn, your intelligence flow.
So, if the data moat is a myth, what are the real killers behind this algorithmic attrition? Well, it turns out there are 4 hidden forces that are silently sabotaging AI startups right when they're trying to hit that big growth spurt.
All right, we're about to walk through a minefield here. First, we're going to run into what's called the silent failure. Then we'll get trapped in pilot purgatory, trip over some hidden technical debt, and finally we have to face the cold, hard reality of inevitable accidents.
First up, the silent failure. Think about it. A normal software bug is loud, right? Your app crashes, you get a big error message. But an AI model that's drifting, it's completely silent. The world changes, the data it sees is different, and the model starts giving you wrong answers, but with the exact same high confidence as before. You literally don't know your core product is broken until your customers start complaining, or worse, just leaving. Next is a place where so many promising startups die: pilot purgatory. You know the story. They prove their tech works beautifully in a controlled test, they get glowing reviews, but they can never get the client to actually weave it into their core business. It's the ultimate yes but. And this isn't a tech problem, it's an organizational one. The startup is just powerless against the internal politics and old school workflows of a giant enterprise. Third on our list is hidden technical debt. In these super complex AI systems, everything is tangled together. Researchers have a name for this: the case principle. Change anything, changes everything. You might make a tiny tweak to the user interface, which changes how people behave, which then subtly alters the data you're collecting, which then poisons your model in some completely bizarre and unpredictable way. Scaling just grinds to a halt because every little update is a gamble that could break the entire system. And this final force might just be the scariest.
Inevitable accidents. This idea comes from something called normal accident theory. So think about it. An early-stage startup has what you'd call loose coupling. There are humans in the loop, founders checking outputs, catching mistakes, providing a safety net. But as you automate to scale, you create tight coupling. And in a tightly coupled system, one tiny error can instantly cascade into a massive, system-wide failure with no one there to hit the brakes. And this, right here, is the paradox of scaling AI. The very thing you do to become more efficient, removing the humans, is what makes your system incredibly fragile. It's like a game of Jenga. The more blocks you pull out, the more unstable the tower gets. And in these complex, tightly coupled systems, accidents aren't just possible, they're statistically guaranteed to happen. Okay, so those internal forces are deadly enough, but there's an equally big challenge on the outside, getting the mainstream market to actually buy and use your AI. This means you have to cross what we can call the trust chasm.
This quote just nails the fear perfectly. The problem isn't just about bugs, it's about agency. When you give an AI the power to make its own decisions, you create the risk of what experts call rogue agency. The AI does exactly what you told it to do, but in a destructive way you never ever intended. Your big customers aren't just worried your AI will be wrong, they're terrified it will be confidently and efficiently wrong in a way that causes massive real-world damage.
And this is the chasm. Your early adopters, the tech enthusiasts, they get excited by raw performance and cool new features. They'll forgive a few mistakes. But the mainstream enterprise market, the Fortune 500 companies, they demand safety, reliability, and governance. More than anything, they demand trust. You can't just sell them on cool capabilities.
This all leads to a really crucial realization. For AI, the product isn't just the model. The real product, the thing that can actually cross that trust chasm, is the algorithm wrapped in a whole suite of trust-building tools. Things like governance dashboards, safety guardrails, and audit trails. In the world of AI, the wrapper is every bit as important as what's inside.
So, faced with all of these challenges, how in the world can an AI startup possibly succeed? The answer is to basically throw out the old playbook and adopt a new one that is focused entirely on one thing: resilience. This new playbook has 4 core rules. First, redefine your resources. Stop hoarding data and start building amazing feedback loops. Second, institutionalize dynamism. This means you have to assume your model is going to degrade, so you build the systems, often called MLOps, to constantly monitor and retrain it. Third, decouple intentionally. Instead of automating everything, you strategically engineer human oversight back into the system to act as a crucial safety brake. And finally, make governance your product. Stop treating it like a boring compliance thing. Start selling trust and reliability as your #1 feature.
Ultimately, what this all comes down to is a fundamental shift in philosophy. That old move fast and break things motto from the social media era, it is a recipe for absolute disaster in the age of AI. When you're building systems that can impact the real world, the goal isn't just to move fast, it's to move thoughtfully and to build systems that are resilient from the ground up.
Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. For years, the race in AI has been all about building the most intelligent system. But maybe we've all been chasing the wrong thing. As AI gets woven deeper and deeper into our world, perhaps its most important feature isn't how smart it is, but how much we can actually trust it.